So we got about halfway through here, right? The 1040. So we got through all the personal information, right? The front top of the page. And we got through the income information down here, which would normally come from a W-2, and I kind of wish they had put an actual W-2 in there, but that's all right. It's an easy transition. And we got down here to the adjusted net gross income. I do want to kind of highlight that because that is a useful figure to have. What I thought I had a highlight. Let's do that. How thick mine with that? Your adjusted gross income. Having that information available, say when you apply for credit cards or car loans or mortgages or something like that, that's one of the big figures that lenders like to know. Is this figure right here, or just the AGI they call it, right? Before you have all these deductions and stuff tacked to it. Right? So just mark that down as an important number that is useful to you as you go forward in life. And then after all the deductions, right, we ended up with an actual taxable income, and that's what we looked up in the tax table, right? And so what was the tax on this income of 79? So in other words, instead of being taxed on 104.7, 148 almost, 79.7. Pretty significant, right? We looked it up. They have a total tax liability of 91.63. Now we're also, what comes next would be like all the credits you have, right? And the taxes you already paid through withholding, okay? So that hopefully that'll reduce that even more, okay? Remember, tax credits are directly applied to this tax amount, right? It reduces that directly, so they're almost like you've already paid, even though you haven't. Yeah.
So taxes is federal income tax withheld.
No, this is what you will. This is what we'll get to what you had withheld down here, later, right? This is what you would owe without any tax credits. Okay, and we're going to do the tax credits here in a minute. So that was 91.63. What I'd like you to do, though, just to see what the difference is. Whoops. Without any, come on. Without any deductions whatsoever, calculate the tax on this adjusted gross income. Like assume that this is what you had to pay tax on. Take a second and do that now. You know where to do that? Are you going to find it in the tax table? Anybody answer that? Or are you going to
tax schedule?
Yeah, right. Because the tax table goes up to what? Well, 99,999, right? Yeah. Okay, so you'll have to use that at the very end of your tax tables. Is that little worksheet there? Pick the right one. You notice the ones they have different ones for different filing statuses, right? So you can go ahead and write it right in there. Calculate what the tax would be if we left this at 104,781. Let's see. So that amount was, hang on a minute. Run that by me again.
14,548.82 cents.
So 549, right?
Yeah.
Is what it would be. Okay. All right. So you can see it makes a pretty significant difference, right? You take those deductions. Did you get something different, Ryan? Catch me. Very filing, don't we? Let me make sure that you did that. Very filing, right? Yep. Okay. Right. Remember, each one of those is for a different filing status. Okay. So you probably do it real quick and get the same amount. So instead of owing a liability of 14,500, it's down to 9,100, right? Okay. So that's what the deductions did for us. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at tax credits, right? Now tax credits, so our deductions moved us into a lower bracket, right? Okay, and also took a percentage of less money, so that's how that got reduced. Now we're going to directly reduce this dollar for dollar. All right. So let's go down the list. Which example? I got to say it's like 6.
One example.
7. So the example 7 is where we calculated the actual tax in the book. And if you look in the book, right, it's different because we're using the updated 21 tax tables, right? Okay.
So since there's no schedule to,
There's no schedule till, all right?
so just put it in on 14, we did.
So now, well, let's do this, right? It says to add lines 16 and 17. So we need to have that in there, as redundant as that sounds, right? So that plus 0 is just that again. You think, oh, okay, it's redundant, right? Because something else, though, is going to come back and refer to that line, right? So we kind of need to put it in there. All right, now.
Out of schedule 3, which we don't have, so it's.
Well, hold on, you missed a line here. You missed a line.
Oh.
Somewhere in there is a schedule 8812, 8812, right? The child tax credit worksheet, okay? Now this is it's a worksheet, right? So it doesn't have to get filed when you, like if you were to mail this all in, you'd normally have to attach all the 1040 in the schedules. The worksheet does not have to go, right? It's for you to do some calculations. So we're gonna have to do those calculations. Also, so this is, I'm not sure why they do it this way, but also look down here. So we're looking at line 19 on the 1040 and line 28 to potentially have something that comes from the 8812 worksheet, all right? So let's go to the 8812 worksheet. Somewhere in here. Let's see, still, it's E. Here's our schedule 8812. What's the first thing we are going to put on here? I'm sorry, no, scratch it. The 8812 gets filed. There's a worksheet that goes with this. I misspoke. The 8812 does get filed with it, but there's a worksheet, a line 5 worksheet that helps you fill this out. So what's the first thing we got to do, guys? No, that's not the first thing.
Oh, name.
Yeah. Name and social.
Line of Sullivan.
And social.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I couldn't hear what you were saying, Sam.
2 A's is a strange one.
There's a lot of strange things. Entering comes from Puerto Rico that you excluded.
So it's wireless.
Well, I guess that's, maybe you come back from one of those Caribbean, South American locales, something take to your large intestine or something. I don't know. Anyway, so what's it say? Line 1, enter amount from?
Line 11.
So what's line 11 on your 1040? The amount, though. That's your AGI, right? So what was that amount? 104,781?
Yep.
Okay. Now, we don't have any income from Puerto Rico that we know about. And we don't have any Form 22555. We don't have a Form 4563. We're not going to address those. So line 2D, we have to add 2A through 2C. We're going to leave that blank. Okay. Now look at line 3. There's nothing really to add there, but we do need to put that in because it'll get referred to later on. So 104. Okay. Just keep going down the list. Now, line 4A, number of qualifying children are age 18 with the required Social Security. Now, we did make the assumption that their daughter was a Carol, was under 18, right?
Yeah.
17 or under.
So
Okay.
I think.
So we're gonna, for 4A, how many kids? 1. Okay. Number of children included in line 4A who were under the age of 6. So that's it. Like we didn't even address that. So under the age, the kids are under the age of 6. It's a slightly different tax treatment, but we're going to assume she's over 6 and less than 18. So what goes here?
0.
Yeah, and you don't have, like sometimes on these I like to put the 0 ones to keep my mind straight. You don't have to. And then line C, subtract B from A. We got a 1, right? Let's go to line 5. What does that say?
If for a more than 0,
If, whoa, what?
If line 4A.
4A.
What did more than one.
Is 4A more than 0?
Yes.
Okay.
Go to line 5.
Enter the amount from where?
Line 5 worksheet.
Line 5 worksheet. Now, there's a whole packet of instructions that come with 8812. I've only included that particular page of it with the worksheet. So if you go a couple pages back, you're going to find the line 5 work. This is the one that won't have to get filed with your return. Where is it? Here's the line 5 worksheet. You guys remember you loving this one?
It's so pointless. I love it.
Oh,
It's a big circle.
yes, it is. It is quite circular, yes, especially in simple situations, right? So let's go line by line here. Multiply Schedule 8812 line 4B by 3600. What's on line 4B? On the 8812. You might want to keep your hand, you know, back. 4B? Yeah, 0. And so what do we put in the first blank?
0.
We'll just leave it, right? How about line 2?
0. 0.
You read it carefully. Well, right, but what does it tell you to do with that, number 1? Okay, so that 1 that we enter in line 4C, it's multiplied by 3,000. Everybody have their calculator with them?
Yeah.
You tell me what that is?
3,000.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I'm a highlighter. Let's see. 3,000. Okay. What do we do next, kids?
Add line 1 and 2.
Let me do that. Well, here's what I'm going to do. Instead of me just, you need some practice of reading these lines on your own, right? And that'll get it in your brain a little better. So everyone take a few minutes right now, go down this worksheet, and let's see if we all get the same result, okay? And when we get down here, near the bottom, you see line 12, whatever you get down here, what does it say to do? Right? So whatever you get down there goes back on the schedule 8812 line 5. So because this is the line 5 worksheet. So let's see how we do. This would be 3,000, right? When we add them up. And then 8812 line 4A by 2,000. That was our 1, so that's 2,000.
Subtract.
Line 4 from 3. So that would leave us with 1,000, right?
That is merely found jointly.
So we enter this amount, right? 12,500 on line 6.
Into the small number.
Enter the smaller of line 5 or 6. What's the smaller of 5 or 6? Anybody? 1,000. Okay. Line 8. And the amount shown for your filing status. Here we are married filing jointly. We're going to enter 150,000. This might be the part where you're getting hung up here. Subtract line 8, right? That's this line from schedule 8812, line 3. So line 3 in the 8812. Yep. So we do it this way. 104, 781 minus 150,000. Negative 45,219. Now what the heck? So let's go back here. What does it say about that? If 0 or less.
And the 0.
Right? So we're not putting that negative number in, right? You cut that part. Okay? So I'm just going to put a 0 in there. Is that maybe where some people made a mistake?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to read. You got to read. You got to read. You got to read. Remember I always told you in class before, frickin' read. Just frickin' read stuff. Yeah. Okay. Multiply line 9 out by 5%. I think we can handle that. Enter the smaller line 7 or 10. So 7 is 1,000, 10 is 0. So we'll put 0. And subtract line 11 from line 3. What was line 3? 3,000 minus 0 is 3,000. That's something. And what do we do with this 3,000? All right. Now you guys we're getting some weird numbers here. Do you see where you got mixed up, baby?
Yeah.
If you don't, we can go back and figure it out. Brielle, you clear now? Maybe we're Sam, Antonio.
Yeah.
Okay. So that goes on. That's our because this is the line 5 worksheet. We're going to put that result on line 5. So yep, line 5. $3,000. Okay. So let's go back. Now, what does it say to do here? Let's see. Number of dependents, we're not under. Okay, so this would be like the grandma living with you to take care of something like that, right? Or maybe you got a kid who's 21 and still at home, which would be a horrible tragedy. Yeah, or just leave it blank, right? Now multiply that blank line 6 by $500, right? So those that are 18 or over, instead of getting your $3,000, you can get $500 for each of them. Thank you so much. Add lines 5 and 7. So 3,000, right? So what are we going to do with line 9? What are we entering, guys? Are we here, 400,000?
Yep.
What are we putting in for line 10? Let's see, subtract line. Yeah, don't right. It's going to be less than 0, so we're going to enter 0. Just leave it blank. And then line 11, that's going to be 10 or 5% of 0, so nothing. And then line 12 is to do what? What are we putting in line 12?
Subtract line 11 from line 8.
So what are we putting on line 12? 3,000. Okay. Now let's look at 13 here. Read that. What? Strange question, but maybe certain people who have different tax concerns apply to them. What are we going to check for 13A? Or are we going to check it or not check it?
Not check it.
No?
Okay.
So, do you know what an abode is? It's a home. Abode home. So what are we going to do with 13A?
Check it.
Presumably they live in the United States for that tax year, right? So we're going to check that. Okay? Because if you didn't, you might have some different tax treatment. And then click here, we're bona fide resident of Puerto Rico, so no. Now, look at part 1B down here. What's it say? Do we have to deal with part 1B?
Yeah.
Why do we have to deal with part 1B?
Check the box.
We check the box they're referring to, right? So we have to do something here down in this section, part 1B. Let's see what we have to do. Let's go to 14A. What are we going to put on line 14A? Zero, right? And again, yeah, this is one I kind of like to put my zeros in for whatever reason, just like I said. It's my brain. Oh, wrong. Wait. Yeah, that's right. How about 14B?
3,000.
Subtract 0 from 3,000 and we get our 3,000. Keep moving. Line 14A is 0. What do we do? What are we entering on line 14C? Say it again. Well, you got to read, start at the beginning of the sentence, right? Start at the beginning of the sentence. It's a conditional statement, right?
14 days.
So what are we putting on line 14C? 0, right? Okay? If 14A is 0, we're going to enter 0 here. Let's keep going. How about line 14D there, kids? Read that. What are we putting there? Another 0. Or blank, whatever. You know. How about 14E?
14 is out of both lines of 3,000.
3,000. 3,000 plus 0 is, in fact, they tell me 3,000. Okay. 14F. All right, that's what, so 14F refers to a situation that's only happened the last couple of years because of COVID, right? You know, the government stimulus that's been paid out for your parents got some money, right? Part of that stimulus was giving ahead of time this advanced child tax credit. We're going to assume that they didn't get that check, just to keep it simple, okay? So we're going to put 0 in 14F, right? We're not going to deal with that. About 14G, what's going on there? 3,000, you sure, Casper?
I don't know. That's the way around.
Subtract line 14F from 14E. All right?
Yeah.
The 0 less, enter 0. I'm going to read you either right. Well, what is it?
Nothing is there.
We'll just put the result. Okay.
I started the
Only 3,000 zero.
Huh?
It is all 3,000 zeros.
3,000 zeros?
No, it's just all. It's always just 3,000 or 0.
It is. Now, if you have different situations, it could be different. No, I mean, this sounds redundant, right? But there are other people that will have different things happening on here. So it happens that in these simple situations, this is how it's going to look, right? But this has got to be, you know, filled out and filed with your return, right? So line H, what's going there, kids?
Line H.
Mm-hmm.
0.
Well, we got a little conflict there, don't we?
I like 0.
We got 0, we got 3,000. Hmm. Let's enter the smaller of those two. What's the smaller of 14D, 14G? Real, what's the smaller of 14D or G? Put a 0 in there. Okay, let's see now. You see some bold print here, guys? Oh, whoops. What the? Where are we? No. End of this line. Where are we putting this 0?
0 on. Line 140.
Of the what form?
1040.
1040. We can just leave it blank, right? We don't need to put a 0 on there. Let's move on to this final line, 14I. What are we doing? What's going there? Hmm? 3,000, right? Okay. And so, what do we do with that?
We put that on line 28 of your 1040.
So let's go back to the 1040. Now that we've gone through all these circles for the man. Line 28. Oops. Oh, yep. Yep, there it is. So the line 19, right? We're not getting anything for that. That was right. So we go down to line 28. We see that here? Refers back to the 8812. We're putting our 3,000 there. So that is a tax credit. Yep. See, this is magnificent. 3,000. Okay. Good so far? Let's go back up here then. See what else we got going on. Right here. All right. So now we're down 919's nothing. Line 20. We're not doing a schedule 3. Okay. What about line 21? Should we put something there? Now it's a 0. You can put a 0 if you want, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how about line 22? What's going there?
We're trying to line 21 and line 18. And that would be 10,162.
Sure about that?
If 0 over enter 0. So it would just stay at 9,000.
So line 22 gets 9163. Okay. Other tab, we're not, so line 23, no self-employment tax. What about line 24? Hmm? But yeah, there's no unemployment tax. We took care of that on the Schedule C. That went to his income. So like okay. So self-employment, not unemployment. If you're self-employed, right? Remember I said, like every quarter through the year, you pay anticipated tax amount. It's kind because you don't have withholding, right? No boss is taking withholding out of your paycheck. So if you're self-employed, you want to make some payments throughout the year. And that's what, so this would be a credit for those payments you made if you're self-employed. Does that make sense? So he didn't really do that. Okay. Add lines 22 and 23, right? So we need this one. That should be a simple calculation. What's it going to be? 22 and 23, add them up.
9,163.
9163. What does this figure represent?
This figure represents your total tax.
Okay. So we didn't get any credits to this point on the credit side of this, right? The tax credit side. But we did pay some withholding taxes in our paychecks throughout the year, right? So that's what's coming up next. Take a look at line 25. And we might have to go back in the book and see what that number was. Back at like example 1, I think it was. They gave the information there. What are we going to put in line 25A? It's, what is it? It's the amount you've had withheld from your paychecks all throughout the year, right? Stolen. Confiscated.
Kidnapped.
Yeah, maybe. Where's my book? It's here. It's like way back in this. Okay, so look here. Right? Again, this is not an actual W-2, it's just the summary of it, right?
Shows the federal income tax now, and we define both of them.
Right, so do we see that? Right, that's for both of them. So why don't you guys add those up and round it to the nearest dollar, okay? That's what we're gonna put back on the 1040. Tell me what you got.
Um,
8862, right? So that goes here. Okay. Now, they didn't have any form, remember, Form 1099s are like for interest payments and stuff. They probably should have, right? Because they said they did earn interest from the bank, and the bank would sell them send them a 1099. We already took care of that on the Schedule 1. Remember the interest and dividends kind of thing? They're not scheduled yet, either way. So all the forms, right? So what do we put here for line 25D? Anybody can just say it. Thank you, Casper. Add those up, and it's just 8862. What does that number represent? I put it on the wrong line. Oh, I didn't, yeah. What is that number, 8862? Listen, guys, the government's saying we are going to owe 9163 in taxes. What does this number mean? It's 8862.
that's the minimum amount.
That's how much you've already paid towards this, what you're going to owe, okay?
And now you simply subtract the tax.
Well, like if we don't go any further, right? If this is our bottom line, are we going to get a refund or are we going to owe?
You got out.
Okay, but let's see what else we have here, right? To reduce this, we do have this, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just keep going down. The earned income credit, that's probably like, I think, we're not going to get into that. They didn't address that there. That's a pretty common one, but it's not complicated to figure out. It's another schedule, but whatever. We're not doing any of this stuff here. So line 28 is a refundable title. We got that 3,000, right? These are other credits that you might apply, qualify for, right? But we're not. We're on the Schedule 3. So line 32. What are we going to do there?
Line 27A and 28, 41.
So what's going on line 32?
3,000.
Everybody agrees 3,000? Okay. So remember, this is a credit. This is their way of saying, okay, not only have you paid the 8,800 in withholding already, we're going to say that you also paid 3,000 towards your tax liability. So that's how a credit works, right?
Then we finally add 25D.
And now down here, yep. So add up what they tell you to add up. What do we got? $11,862. Yep. And what does it say? Herb, why does it do that? What does it say this number is? See how they word it? Yeah. I mean, you didn't pay that 3,000 really, right? But they consider that a payment. That's how a tax credit works. Does that make sense? You paid that withholding. You definitely did, right? All throughout the year. But this 3,000 and all the other tax credits, right? They were considered quote unquote payments you already made towards that tax liability. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get down to whether we have a refund, right? Or amount we owe. So read the directions for that for line 34. What's it say we're going to do? It's a conditional statement again. If something is the case, then do this.
If line 33 is more than line 24, subtract line 24 from line 23.
Is 33 more than 30 or
No.
24? Is line 33 more than, okay, so it meets that conditional if, right? Okay, so you're going to subtract them. And what's the result?
2,000 $2,699.
2,699. What does that number represent?
It's the amount you overpaid.
Yep, that's the amount you overpaid, which means what?
That means you get money back.
Now, 35A is one of the most fascinating lines. How much of that you want? Well, to be fair, right? You could I mean, there are situations where you might want to just leave all or part of it there because you know next year you're gonna owe some money.
Okay.
It's like a tax credit for next year, but how much of that do you guys want?
A lot.
A lot of it?
Yeah.
You want all of it. What percentage would you like to keep, Antonio?
100%.
100. That is a lot of it. Yes.
Could you put like $3 of those towards the thing in the first page?
Yeah, you could, Sam.
Presidential election.
Yep. You go right ahead.
If
Would you like it for $3? Yeah.
If you're gonna put that money towards your next taxes, but for line 36, you put that you don't want to put anything for it, and you don't want anything refunded. Just go to the government.
I don't know.
Yeah, government fuel.
Yes, but I don't know. Well, they're gonna apply to your
Yeah, that's what happens.
Amazing.
estimated. Yeah, so maybe like you're self-employed, right? Maybe you got self-employed and you got to make those payments throughout the year, so maybe you could use it for that kind of thing, right? And that's the estimated payments. I mean, I think that's what that is. So yeah, I think we want all of it. Yeah. Of course, we're doing that. We're doing this. We're there. 26.99. All right. Now you can either, send this all. You can mail. In the old days, we just had it mail. We had to put them all in an envelope and mail it to the IRS. We had to be at the post office. They opened until midnight on April 15th. Had to be postmarked by midnight on April 15th to be valid, right? So you don't get in trouble. And so we'd mail it in, and then we would wait for weeks, sometimes months, for them to mail us a paper check with this refund. But now, not only do you not have to do these by hand, right? You can do them electronically, online, or TurboTax, or something like that, and you can have the money directly deposited to either your checking or savings account. So it's really important, and it comes a lot quicker that way if you do it. Is decide which account do you want to put it in, a checking or a savings?
Savings.
Savings? Okay. I want to put it in my checking. I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah. You check. And then also you need to put in your bank's routing number, whatever that is. I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? Every bank's got a different routing number, right? And then they got the bank's routing number, and then your specific account number, right?
6111.
Yeah. 684309248, whatever. Okay. Now, down here, right? If 24 is bigger, right? You'd have to go down here. This is the amount you'd owe, so you'd have to send this into the check, or if you do it electronically, you put your credit card in and send them the payment with filing. But then you definitely have to sign down here. So you and your spouse. Anybody here have a spouse? Yeah.
No.
No. Right. So is it Brian? Yeah, let's do like a signature. Brian, I haven't written cursive in a long time. This looks like the last time I wrote cursive was in, I think, 5th grade. And so this is what it looked like when I was writing and when they made me do it. Made us all do it. This is exactly where I left off. Right? What was his occupation? Cameraman or something, right? We'll call this, we went right to the deadline, 15. This is 21, so 22, right? And then her name was Margaret. E-T. O. Uh-huh. Her occupation was sports cable or something like that, right? Oh, Oh, we do have to go back. You know what? I forgot, Cashman reminded me. What was that? It was, yeah. One thing we forgot to do, guys, is the thing for Schedule E, which actually got put on our schedule list. So we got to pretend we didn't just finish this. Schedule 1. And that was the, what was it? It was the royalties, right? The royalties were 1988. And notice here, we did forget this, attach Schedule E. So we have to go deal with that real quick. And we should have done this yesterday, but. And this is kind of odd. It's just not, it's almost like they set it up so it doesn't apply perfectly to royalties. Anyway, let's get his name and social in here. Always want to do that. Brian O. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. All right. So down here, part 1A. Did you make any payments in 2000 or required to Forbes? No, we did not do that. Part B is an if yes, so we leave it out. Okay. So we're talking about royalties, right? We wrote a commercial jingle or something. And every time they use it, you know, whoever sold it to pays them a certain amount of royalties, right? So it's not a property, a street address, or anything like that. But here's where we're going to put this. Type of property from list below. Take a look at this type of property list. And you see each one is numbered. Which one we're going to use? 6, right? C6 is royalties. And so under here, we're just going to put the number 6 for royalties. You with me? Okay. Now when we go down here, so the income from those royalties, we've got, they leave you 3 things to put in there. Like if you had royalties for whatever, or rental real estate or something like that. So which one of these we're going to use? Line 3 or line 4?
Line 4.
Okay, and what are we putting in line 4 under the A? What were the amount of royalties here? Remember? 1988, right? It's the year I graduated high school. Okay, and that's it. So you know, no expense for that. He's just sitting there collecting that money, so there's no expenses for that. So now we got to go down here to line 21. Subtract line 20 from line 3. Or no, 22. Wait a minute. Oh, 3 and or 4. That's right. So line 20 from 3 and or 4, right? Line 20 is 0, right? There's no expenses. So on line 21, we're going to put that 1988. Let's move on down here. We're having deductible real estate. Nothing on line 3. Total amount support on line 4 for royalty properties. That's our 1988 again. Okay. That's 23B. And we also, none of these apply. We don't have any other properties. Income, add deposit amounts, right? So that's just 1988. The next line would be like losses or anything like that. It doesn't apply here. Okay, so then we have a total of royalty income. That's our 1988. And this is what we should have done, right? Because now it says to enter this amount on Schedule 1. We did that yesterday. We should have done this first, really. Okay? Kind of get this. I know it's a lot. It's right goofy, but you see, you got to read it carefully, right? It'll kind of guide you almost by itself, right? And you do have to have some familiarity with what's a deduction, what's a credit, you know, where things go, right?